Are you interested in deepening your spiritual awareness and discovering your true nature as divine? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Align with the Divine. With me, your host, Patricia Diorio, spiritual mentor, sacred storyteller, and professional intuitive. Join me and my amazing guests each week for a deep dive into the exciting world of spirituality. Align with the Divine will inspire you to embrace your innate power to create your reality. It will motivate you to move past your limited thinking, release your subconscious programming, and show you how to live in the present moment with clarity and focus. Get involved with the show. Send your email to patricia@patriciadiorio.com. This is Align with the Divine. Hello, and welcome to Align with the Divine. I'm Patricia Diorio, and each week I have the honor and privilege of introducing you to the most amazing people. And this week is absolutely no exception. My guest today is Reverend Temple Hayes, who describes herself as a rebel and a renegade and someone that's been resurrected 1,000 times. She has the most amazing story to share with you, and I can't wait for you to meet her in a few minutes. No, the most important thing that Reverend Temple and I have in common is that we both know that we are spirit beings in physical form, spiritual beings having a human experience with this amazing, innate, immeasurable power to create our reality, which we're doing all the time. And I would love to share more about my work with you, so I invite you to my website, alignwiththedivine.net, and check out my pages. I really talk about this idea of being spiritual beings, having a human experience, and creators of our reality quite a bit. And I have a spiritual quiz on my homepage, and I invite you to take that little quiz. And if you want to have a conversation about the results of that, I'd be happy to meet with you. And just reach out to me, and I'm happy to give you a complimentary discovery session to see where you are in your spiritual life. So Reverend Temple Hayes, an amazing lady, and I really look forward to my time with her today. She was raised in the Deep South in a rural little town of, I don't think, more than 2,000 people. And the community was deeply embedded in evangelical Christianity. So she had that kind of a background to begin with. And I'm going to let her share her story with you because it's pretty amazing. But she is the author of an outstanding book called When Did You Die? And this book is about how when we're not in tune with who we truly are as spiritual beings, not in tune with who we are as divine beings, that we get caught up in all the programming and domestication and belief systems that don't serve us when we come into this lifetime. And as that happens, we die a little bit. We die a little bit every day when we're not in alignment with who we are. So her book talks about the 8 steps to stop dying every day and start waking up. She is a spiritual leader. She is a force to be reckoned with, I would say. She has many wonderful kudos under her belt. And this book, of course, is her one of her main achievements. But she's also written a few other books, one called Being a Difference Maker, How to Speak Unity, and The Right to Be You. So she is a unity minister, and she's also a minister of the science of mind. And it's interesting because I've always been interested in the science of mind as well. And unity and the science of mind are very similar in their principles. So I'm really looking forward to having you hear what she has to share today. She is a great animal lover, which I love. I tell you this, one of the first things that she did coming to Unity here in Santa Barbara was have a special Sunday where she brought several animals from the shelters who hadn't been adopted. And people had an opportunity to meet these dogs. And in fact, a good friend of mine adopted one of them, a beautiful husky called Blue, which he's still enjoying in his life. So that, to me, is such an important thing to understand that everything in life is spirit, that animals are our so wonderful in our lives. There are teachers and there are companions and there are healers. And I love that about Temple. So I hope you will enjoy this interview. I think that she's rocking and rolling in the spiritual community globally, and she has a lot to share that I feel will have a wonderful influence on your life. She's very inspiring. So enjoy. Well, hello, Reverend Temple. Interview has been a long time coming. I've been really looking forward to it. So, you have such an impressive story. And maybe it seems a little bit trite to begin with the why. Why have you evolved into this spiritual leader today and have so many accolades under your belt, so to speak? Give us your why story. How did this all come about for you?
Well, I have always been a nature girl, always loved animals, insects. I mean, anything God creates, I love it. And so I spent a lot of time in nature. And at 5, I was out in my backyard and I got this download that says that it was like, you're here to bring your spirit to the world, whatever the wording would be for a 5-year-old. And I took that very serious, except unlike Yogananda, I couldn't go to my family and go, I was out by a tree and God spoke to me. And my family say, well, let's get you in the mystery school. What I got, the biggest part of my life with people is you're weird. I went, I'm weird. But likened to so many people and your listeners, when you get a message and you want to serve humanity and you want to make a difference maker, then often you go through training. Good times, hard times, rough times, abandonment, betrayal, smallness, discomfort, all different kind of things. And people misinterpret that. They confuse that, Patricia. They think, well, I thought I had this message. I thought I could be a good psychologist or a good therapist or a good coach, but I just keep having these problems. I've had many people tell me, I'm going to wait till my problems are all over. I said, oh, you're going to do your work in the afterlife then.
Right.
Because the things that you have happened to you or around you or the experiences, they shape shift you so you can move on the other side of it and help other people. There's very few people that I could say I don't understand. I don't ever tell people I know how you feel because nobody knows how someone else feels. But abandonment, betrayal, not being understood, being weird, being odd, being unique, feeling out of place, feeling homeless, meaning not feeling at home on the earth. You relate to all this stuff.
I call that being a stranger in a strange land, going back to that original book.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
I've always felt kind of like on the perimeter of normalcy, whatever normalcy is, however the collective defines normalcy. I'd like you to share about your upbringing in the South, because I think that has had a huge impact on you in your life, because you had quite a traumatic childhood, as I understand. Can you share about that?
Of course. Yeah, I'll share anything you want to know. So I was extremely metaphysical. And to check in with that, what that simply means is living life beyond the physical. And so it's in the meta. And I laugh and say I probably was the only metaphysical person in Anderson, South Carolina, of 30,000 people. Probably still am on record as being the only medical physical person in Anderson, South Carolina. But I went to school in a town, the population wasn't even 2,000 people. Oh. And so that being said, very small area, country, dairy farm, very small town. And then there's me. And when I was, first thing, big major thing, aside from a cousin drowning and, other things that happen when you're little and they're your first time, was that my mother was accused of having an affair. and they sent her away, and she had those barbaric shock treatments. I wasn't even 10 years old. And so my brother and I were sent away. Nobody ever explained to us what was going on. And when my mother returned, she wasn't really my mother. She had the heart of my mother, but she didn't have the memory of my mother. She didn't remember things. And so I watched her life in that way. So it sets up for fast track. Now I'm 13 and I'm in a relationship with a girl that's 17. And my father walked in on us in just an intimate setting. I mean, we were dressed and everything, but he could read the message and he flipped out. And here we go, loaded up in the car to the mental health center. So I just put together they were going to send me away and fry my brain too, because I was brought up in a extreme Southern Baptist theology that practiced identically, now almost 60 years later, the same message, almost the same thing I heard on Sunday. They repeat it every week with different songs, that they choose. So it was a horrible time because I was one of the favorite children of the Hayeses, named after my grandfather, John Temple. And now people wouldn't even make eye contact with me. So it's very difficult. I went from being well known to let's don't speak of her. And so what I did is I had this intuitive response when I was getting a homosexual assessment. And I had this response to aggravate my father in front of the therapist. Something just told me to do that. And it wasn't hard to do because he was such a rageaholic drama king. And I really angered him about something I said. So the therapist said to him, Mr. Hayes, I will take care of your daughter, but only if you agree that you let me treat you. And he said a few choice words and we got in the car and it was never mentioned again because he wasn't going to do it because, he didn't have anything wrong with him. It was the rest of us.
Of course not.
One of those people.
Well, I was just blown away to discover that he he killed your cat.
Yep.
Deliberately?
And my dog. And my dog. It was just wired. A lot of it he didn't do on purpose. He just wasn't a grounded man. I mean, he provided and, all the things that we could say, okay, yeah, but he was just a rageaholic. You never knew what was going to set him off. And, it was like into the movie Prince of Tides, but we never fed my dad dog food that I can remember. But yeah, he was just like always like that, and so he stopped one day. I was with my German Shepherd and we're getting props in the background. Can you hear that? So anyway, so he just took off and ran over my dog. It died in the truck on the way to the vet. It was just like that. It was crazy, just always crazy.
So you left home pretty early, didn't you?
Yeah. I started, going away as soon as I could. And I ate finding people I could relate to. What happened was the saving grace, because there's always the saving grace, is that I was delayed going to college. I had a small cyst on the end of my tailbone, and I don't want to say spine because it wasn't related to that. But that being said, it delayed me going to college, and so I got affiliated with Michelin Tire. That was like 45 minutes from my home. And my grandfather had a tire business and a local store and a local service station. I went to work when I was 11 and helped him out. So I was very familiar with tires. It was hysterical, Patricia. People would come from all over and buy tires just to watch me change them. And so when I heard about Michelin Tire, they were coming from France. I thought, I want to apply there. Basically, I just wanted to get out of the town I lived in. And it changed my life. That's how I was introduced to unity. That's how I was introduced to international mindsets, a broader perspective of people. And it started putting air back into my lungs.
Hmm. You had a good relationship with your grandfather, didn't you? Because I recall that you talking about your grandfather.
Yeah, I did with both my grandfathers, really. Um, it's just that, and I had a great relationship with my grandmother, but their religiosity couldn't override their love for me.
Yeah,
I understand that now. People will say, "Well, God, weren't you like so put out with them or fed up with them that they were so mean to you and telling you they're." My grandmother, 13 and a half, summoned me to her home. She was the wife of my name, John Temple, and summoned me. And I was just like, she just thought I was precious until she heard the news. I was anything but precious, and she was angry. And I mean, I don't even have a permit to drive a car. I'm that young, and she's saying, "I'm so sorry I won't see you in heaven. You don't know how painful it is for me to know that I won't see you in heaven, because you're this weird person." It was rough. And
it's
yet, somehow within me, being an old soul, I had the wisdom. It wasn't like I was saying it was okay. However, that's a lot to ask somebody to give up their religious beliefs to include you. It's
right.
very hard for people to do.
Yeah, when they've been so programmed and domesticated, so to speak, with the collective agreement of the family, and the
Hmm.
religion of that particular area of the country, which was
I
very.
mean, look at the craziness we call war. I mean, all in the name of God, please.
I know, it's amazing. Well, I was raised Catholic. I didn't have that much of a strict background, but I definitely had uh, that kind of dogma that was instilled in me as a young child. And I think that I came in totally connected and knowing who I was and connected to God, to spirit, because I can remember as a little girl being on my knees when I was like 3, praying and asking to be a vehicle through which God would come. I mean, my mother said she didn't even know where this came from, so I can relate to
Wow.
in that commitment. And you also during that period of time struggled with alcoholism
Hmm.
as a young woman, and how did that was a major teacher in your life, wasn't it?
It truly was. John Bradshaw was very famous back in the day of calling it the hole in your soul, right? And there was a big hole in my soul. And I had such a dichotomy or an inner, I don't want to say battle, but an inner, I don't know, incongruency because God talked directly to me and I knew this. And yet all I heard was that that's not possible. You have to go through an intermediary. You can't talk to God directly. You have to go through,
The
one of his children, Jesus. And it didn't resonate with me. And, that part of that was and yet being extremely intuitive, though we didn't use words like that. So in that space, the first time I drank, it made me really, really sick. My body knew better, but that hole in my soul, it was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to feel. I want to be numb. And I had an allergy. I mean, I was brought up, my dad would put sugar and butter on toast and send me to school. And they wondered why I acted out. And a lot of it's that. So it's not just one thing, it's an allergy, it's a predisposition, it's a chemical I have in my brain that you don't have in yours. It's a lot of different things with alcoholism. But for me, the numbing, the not wanting to feel, it fed that. And it was never meant to be for me because I had one car accident after another, totaled a number of cars. I went to jail twice.
Oh, wow.
Um, I mean, everybody, it's like I said one time at Unity of Santa Barbara, I've already been famous. And people looked at me like, oh, she's so full of herself. And I paused and I said, every state trooper knew my cars. And that's true. They did. It's like, there she is. Get ready. You're probably going to make some extra money tonight. You're going to be able to pull her over. I mean, for years, when a siren would go off, I would just pull my car to the side. It was crazy.
I'm sure as soon as you heard the siren, everything just went off in your body, right?
It did. But
Yeah.
29 years old, I had an awakening in a dream, and the voice said, don't ever drink again or you'll die. And I never went back, never struggled, never wish I could, nothing. I was done.
You were done. Yeah.
36 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I believe that every encounter is a teacher. And, when we have those difficult times in our childhood and we look back on it, they really helped us to grow to be who we are. So those lessons really helped you to come to your own wake up. So you got introduced to Unity through your work with Michelin?
Yep.
How did that
Yes.
happen?
I was 19. Well, a guy that worked there, last name Bliss,
Interesting.
he really recognized me. He recognized my spirit. And he started bringing me books, As a Man Thinketh, The Way, Illusions. And he'd say, I think you would like these. And I just went, oh my gosh, this is me. This is me. And he said, and oh, by the way, my wife and I go to a Unity here in town. Love to have you join us some Sunday. And I went, and that was it. It was like I couldn't leave my chair that day. I wept. I felt like I took the largest breath I had taken in a very long time.
Wow.
And because I heard for the first time in my life, I am a child of God, and therefore I am loved, and therefore God does love me, and God is a principle and a power. And I went, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
So you studied Unity, but you also studied science of mind, didn't you?
Hmm. I did. I was still drinking and going and applying to Unity. And back then, you would go and live at Unity Village. You didn't do online and all those kind of things. Um, and I used to go into the kitchen. You're talking about talking to your mom. My poor mom. I go in the kitchen and I go, Mom, if I don't get a clear understanding what I'm supposed to do, I just feel like I'm just going to die. And she just wouldn't know what to do. She'd go, Temple, I don't know, but I just know you're really, really different. And I don't know what to tell you. Que sera, sera. It's going to work out. I go, okay, Mom. And so I would apply and get rejected. And of course, my consciousness wasn't ready. But a friend of mine, she contacted me from Florida and said, there's a place here that's very similar to Unity, but they're a lot larger in their thinking about abundance and finances, and they're called Science of Mind. And she goes, why don't you come check it out? And you can become a minister on site. And if you like it, I'll hire you at my company. And that will be it. So my little brother jumps in the car with me. And I said, if I see a rainbow, I know that's what I'm supposed to do. And that's what I did. The biggest rainbow I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
And I moved right away and studied there. And yes, I became they called it religious science then before they rebranded. They called it religious science churches of a certain city, teaching the science of mind. But now they're all centers for spiritual living with
Yeah.
rebranding. But yeah, so I was with them for many years and then moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, and went in to guest speak at a Unity. And
That's
there,
it.
there you go.
So you have both of those under your.
I do. I'm ordained in both, and I have my doctorate in science of mind, doctorate of humane letters, but I'm very grateful that I have both because I feel I've been a great spokesperson for people realizing we're the same. Because my common sense argument is you can't stand in front of a room and talk about oneness if you don't even get in similar ways how unity and science of mind walk hand in hand. That's going to be too far-fetched of an idea. So I used to travel across the country and talk about the need to heal the divide that we have, or the misunderstandings, or what people say about the other one, which is kind of like being in high school, really,
Yeah.
you
So
know.
that's happened. Science of mind
Hmm.
and unity have really merged because the message is pretty much the same, is it not?
Yes, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Some of the words and terminology is different, but yeah, it's all about the same. Hmm.
So let's talk about this.
Yes.
When
It's
did you die?
familiar.
Yeah. What did you say?
I said, that looks familiar.
Really a fine book. And
Mm,
this, I think this book has been life-changing for many people, based on your 8 steps, which I think are very powerful.
thank you.
So tell us, how would you give me like the cliff notes of this book right now before we really get into more questions?
The 8 steps are tried and true to what I used to bring me out of a death place of dying. Uh, Physically, I wasn't dying. Energetically, I was and had been for a very long time. And like you say, Patricia, and I just want to say, I wouldn't take back one thing that's happened in my life at all, at all.
I get
It
it.
it helps me understand others, broaden my perspective of situations, handle confrontation. People will say, "How do you handle confrontation so well?" And it's, I grew up in a dysfunctional family. So that being said, um, I'm so grateful these things happen to me because I realize on so many levels why the surface metaphysical teachings for people, unity and science of mind, they will only work so much. They'll help you release some of the early layers or some of the top layers of the onion, as Stephen Covey would say. But the deeper influencers, the unconscious things that drive us, repeating the same patterns, why therapists can't help us break through certain situations. I really needed this. I needed to connect with a shaman who would teach me the other world reality of going deeper than just quiet meditation, but unto the deep, and bring back imagery that would teach me strength and groundedness. I needed to look at events in my life that had fragmented my energy. When my grandfather died, when certain things happened, I needed that energy to be brought back into my life. And that is what, the native teaching and the Aborigines and the wonderful people that walked this earth long before, other things came in and made them wrong and slaughtered them and all those things, the wisest teachings they had. And when someone would die, or someone would have pain, or somebody would they would fall off their horse and get injured. I'm making it into pastime. They didn't have cars then, so they didn't have car accidents. But they would bring the tribe together. They would create a fire-like state, and they would welcome the energy back into this person. We don't do that, especially in America. We just find a way to make more money, or we just keep going, or we get different layers of clothing, but we never deal with the
Yeah.
inside.
Or we
And,
blend it over with pharmaceuticals.
and
Yeah.
all of that. And so we die, we're energetically dying, and we're programmed, because if we're not programmed, we won't buy products. If we're not programmed, we won't just accept the first little thing that comes along. So at 38, I went, something's wrong with my soul. I'm dying. Something's wrong, and I need something to happen because I have gone as far as I can. My pep in my step is not there. And that's when I had the encounter of a woman who told me she saw a shaman, which means a holy teacher. That's basically what it means.
Right.
And I prayed and said, if this is for me, it shall be. And then all of that manifested in my life. But I realized then how duped we are, because societal beliefs are, oh God, that happened. Oh, your son won't speak to you. Oh, this problem. Oh, that occurred. Oh, this tragedy. I don't know how you keep going. I mean, it just gets worse and worse, and you're just getting older and older and take these pills. That's societal belief. The
I know.
true belief of the spirit.
Right.
Everything we go through, if we walk through it, if we come on the other side of it, we have more energy than we ever have. And I know that's true because I'm a living example of that. I can run circles around most people that I ever meet, regardless of age, because energy comes from spirit.
Right. Well, when we come in, well, when we're born, like Bruce Lipton, I'm sure you're familiar with his work, The Biology of Belief. He says that for the
Mm-hmm.
first 7 years of life, we're like little psychic sponges. Whatever happens ex utero, as well as after we're born, it just goes in, good, bad, or indifferent. So
Yes.
we have this programming, and we, as children, like the Catholic Church says, give me your child to the age of 7, and I have them forever. And
Yes. Oh,
confirm
yeah.
all that. It's tragic because we're divine beings having a human experience. This is what the show is about. It's like align with your divine
Mm-hmm.
touch with the truth of who you truly are. And I feel that if children, from the time well, certainly conscious parents, bless their hearts, because they're genetic engineers for their kids as far as, what they do before the child is born and after. But I think that if there were in schools, in elementary schools, this idea of energy and spirit, and maybe they have to approach it through quantum physics, and the work of
Mm-hmm.
Einstein and those guys, in order for children to maybe have a logical, linear understanding of spirit, from the standpoint of science, and then moving into, well, this is it, you're a spirit
Right.
body. This table is spirit vibrating so slowly that you can see it. Everything is spirit. Our animals are spirit, but our children don't know that. I certainly didn't know that, but I like you came in with this passionate, undying desire to find God, to find
Yeah.
spirit, to find myself. And I feel that the programming, it's the programming. Nobody, like Don Miguel Ruiz says, nobody escapes domestication. We get
Right.
plugged in, we get plugged into our family dynamics, our family values, the ancestors, that what's, our family inherited, and it comes right down to us. So I feel that this awakening process is really important. There's a quote here, and perhaps you've addressed it in just what you shared about the book, but you say that many people do not realize that there are many layers of being asleep and dying while we are living.
That's right.
Yeah, share that. Share what you mean by that.
Yeah.
I think it's important. It really captures the essence of your book.
Oh, well, because to me, we're not born just one time. I mean, we celebrate our birthday and it's a holiday and it sells lots of Hallmark cards. We're born at any given moment, within the year, within an experience. We can be born again. We can have a new awakening to the awakening that we've already had. Because we're nature. We're made out of nature. And as Alan Watts says, we will return to nature. So it's not, oh, I'm born one time and then I die. No, I'm doing that constantly within a course of any given time. And especially when I face something unexpected or I'm shocked by something, or, just like being told by 8 people, I'm moving to Santa Barbara when I was as comfortable and as happy as you can be where I was. It's like, no, leave me alone. I mean, those kind of things, we are made anew. if we allow
How
it.
did that happen? How did you, if
You
you were
know, if we would allow it.
where you were in Florida, how did that happen that you were inspired to come to Santa Barbara?
Well, I didn't think I was inspired. I mean, I've been here a number of times. I had my one of my birthdays here in Montecito a few years ago. I mean, what's there not to love here?
I know.
And people would say to me, "Oh, wouldn't you want to live here?" No, mm-mm. No, I love St. Petersburg, Florida. Very similar architecture, beach across the street where I live, blah, blah. Phenomenal community, phenomenal community. And and one day somebody says to me, because I was coming here to visit, and somebody said to me, you know, you're not just coming to visit, you're moving here. And I just thought, I wrote her off. I thought she has an agenda. I went, no, no, I'm not. Mm-mm. And so then 3 days later, somebody called me and said, I need to talk to you right away. I get messages from Mother Mary. Mother Mary said for me to tell you you're too emotionally involved here and you need to relocate to California.
Wow.
What? Then 2 days later, this is all in a week. My executive director lived in Portugal. We were coming out of COVID and it made sense. You know, we were all on Zoom and she goes, do you have an exit strategy? I said, why are you asking me that? Now I'm crying. And she goes, because you're going to be leaving and I'm going to help you.
Wow.
What? So
And that was,
then I tell my wife, because now I got to, you know, and I went, you better sit down. Because I mean, we loved our home. I mean, everything, you know, I mean, yes, it's stuff, but I love my spiritual community. Had just finished developing a big online university and you know, and I know where this is going because I do what God tells me. Well, and so I'll tell you a cute little story about that. But anyway, so it happened 5 more times. And 4 people I didn't know. And
wow.
they told me I was moving here. So that's what we did. Okay, we're moving here. We didn't move here for something. We didn't move here to be affiliated with anything. We were just told to move here. And so we did.
And
And
that was
so
before you knew that Unity was looking for a new minister?
I knew Unity was looking for a minister when I was supportive of Heidi coming here. I was asked then if I would apply, and I said no. I just loved where I was. That's all. You know, and then and we had a huge community. It seated 400 people, and we were always expos and activism, and they had really taken to the kind of work that's important to me. So it wasn't anything against Unity of Santa Barbara. It was just that I know what it takes to change a culture, get people that want to participate, you know, and get away from social clubs. And I know what it takes. I've done it. And I wasn't interested. I already had what I was seeking, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
So
right.
I mean, it would be like, you know, you remarrying now and saying, I want to get, you know, 8 more kids. It's like you've done that already. That's how I felt. It wasn't about another place. It was just like, why would I do that? You know, why would I leave something so magnanimous to start again? So that was my psychology. Now, my soul, you know, had a different plan, but that was my psychology, my personality. That's how I felt about it. The hardest thing for me was telling my mom because for the first time in my adult life, my mother lived in the city. I moved her there. I was financially supportive to her and a team of people that loved and took care of her. And so I have to have this meeting with her and I'm trembling. I was just like a little kid. I'm like, oh, and I was like, Mom, you're not going to believe this. God has told me that I'm moving.
Wow.
What? I said, yeah, I'm leaving. I'm moving. I find it hard to believe, but we're moving to Santa Barbara.
How old is your mother?
My mother just died in January, but she was 85.
She was
And
80.
she said, what so God told you. And I said, yeah. She said, well, you got to go.
Oh, how
You got to
sweet.
go. You always do what God tells you. And I'm your mother and I have to support you. And then she repeated it. Well, you've always listened to God. And then I said, okay, now you're overstating it. For 15 years, I didn't listen to anything. And then she laughed and she said, well, can I talk about me now? And I said, sure. She said, I want to stay in Florida. I said, okay, I think that's a wiser choice. But the minute you ever change your mind, I'll come immediately and get you. I'd love for you to live with me. So that was
Oh.
that. Yeah, and she died just a few months later. So
So you've been here 2 years, 3 years?
no, no, not yet. Oh no, not yet. Let's see. From April to April, May, June, July, August, September. So about 16 months.
About 16 months. Well, I'm going to share this in my, I shared it in my intro that I had the closest thing that I have found to what I've discovered around spirituality was unity. And
Yeah,
that was the closest thing.
me
And
too.
I left the church at 25 and I didn't want to know about structured religion at all. So I looked at all these different paths and I studied a lot of different paths. And when I discovered unity, I said, well, this is the closest, that I can find. So I've been kind of in and out of the unity community for a couple of years. And
Hmm.
I wasn't here when Reverend Heidi was here. I was here when the gentleman,
Larry.
Larry, was here. And then there was COVID and this big break. But I heard about you and I heard about Reverend Kathy. And I thought, well, I'm going to check this out. And when I came, I was blown away because both of you were so dynamic and so well spoken, and you were speaking right into my heart, right into my soul.
Oh,
And I said, well, this is wonderful. This is really what's for me now. And I have watched the two of you just pull up this community from the bootstraps. I mean, it just
mm,
when I look around the sanctuary now, and I see so many faces and so many people that are returning to unity too.
hmm.
That were attending before. So I want to commend you and Reverend Kathy for doing such an amazing job. It's been wonderful to watch this evolution over this just what less than 2 years.
Hmm. And it's hysterical. We laugh about it often because I felt that chapter of my life, Patricia, was complete. And first of all, thank you. And
Oh,
we love having you there. You're a special, special person. But that being said, we laugh about it because I had told Heidi back when she was applying here, I said, I'll help you. I'll be glad to help you because that size of community, I've helped a lot of unities through the years. I help them help themselves. It's not I don't get off on myself. I always say I'm full of spirit, but I have the knowledge and I've done it already. So it's easier. And so I said, I'll help you. I'll help you. So, and Kathy, had been a minister forever and wasn't going to do ministry again. And I was like, I'm complete. I've done the best I know how to do, spirit through me. I've had, a great community. We had 12 ministers at one time and 20 staff members and did a
oh,
lot of work. We went to Carnegie Hall twice. We're in a film that's still going to be launched. I think it was launched in Dubai at the United Nations called Never Alone. And it's filmed at, a big part of the filming is at my community in Florida. And
wow.
it's about suicide. Anyway, but we just told Heidi we'd help her out. That was all there was. That was it. It's like, Heidi, we'll help you. Heidi even asked me. She said, "Do you want to be here?" And I said, "No, I don't. Thank you. I don't. No, I do not." So Heidi talked to me on Kathy again and said, "Well, would you meet with the board? Um, they would be open to some kind of team." And we said, okay. And I went, well, I have a few ideas in my pocket and I'd be glad to help. for any community with anybody.
Right.
I mean, some communities, because they don't know how and they're not open to calling people who do, I don't know why, but they close. And a lot of them have closed. A
Wow.
lot of unities have one person that does Zoom to 4 and 5 communities. It saddens me greatly because I just believe it didn't have to be that way. But that's another talk show for another day. But
Yeah.
that being said, that's how it happened, Patricia, which is so funny.
Yeah.
Neither one of us were interested. We were just interested in helping Heidi. And
And
then
well,
Heidi resigned, and
she,
there we were.
she's in Ventura. Maybe she had a hidden agenda.
She might have, but obviously universal law does. There's a law that's operating, and we're there. Yeah, I feel we are amazing things are happening there.
They are. And before we wrap today, I really would like to ask this question. I feel that with COVID and with all the changes that are happening on the planet, and I look at it like we're these caterpillars that have eaten all the milkweed leaves, and now we're in the chrysalis and we're in breakdown because humanity is definitely in breakdown and in that mushy elixir that will eventually result in the monarch butterfly. I don't know how long it will take us, but I feel
Right.
that there's a huge shift happening now spiritually. Religion is religion. I don't know if religion is going to wake up. Okay. But certainly there's been a huge shift in people's understanding of spirituality. Maybe quantum physics is the wind under the wings of this shift. But I wanted to get your take on where you see spiritual communities going over the next 2 decades, let's say, as because people are really we are evolving. We are an evolving species, and we're waking up. And Barbara Marx Hubbard, who was one of my teachers, she would talk about that evolutionary spiral, and we're on that evolutionary spiral, and we're about to turn. I think that this is what's happening, and eventually we're going to have an awakened humanity. How do you
Mhm.
see unity figuring in that?
Well, there was a time a few years ago where I really felt like that churches, along with all institutions, need to fall apart to come together a new way. Like you, Patricia, I find great sadness in the education center, in the education systems. It's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Let's teach children life skills. Let's teach children self-esteem, uh, aspects of grief, money. Let's teach them skills. Let's don't have teachers with low self-esteem always wanting to outdo the students that have evolved to be brighter than they are. I'm sorry people don't get that. The new that are being born are always brighter than those before them.
Right.
The
Exactly.
problem is the insecure, never grown up human being, adult people that call themselves adults that really haven't earned that. They zap them, they tear them down, they bring them down. They tell them all the people they're going to be like, and they don't reach that. You
Yeah.
look at healthcare. I've worked in healthcare for years as a trainer, teacher, taught CEUs. Very little energy now is about the patient. It's
Yeah.
about the bottom line. It's about the money. It's about that. And that's why the nursing industry has such shortages. So I thought that's going to happen to communities as well. Because I used to say when I was 33, so the other day, I would say, when all of you really get this, nobody's going to come. Right? And I said, but I want you to come because who am I going to talk to and who are we going to sing to? I don't feel that way now. I think there's going to be a new rise with spiritual community, and I think there will continue to be a fall with evangelism. It eventually there's enough people on the planet that are gonna. There are now. So my call is those of you that feel that there is a spirit that connects all of us. don't be in the closet. We need you to speak out. And now's not the time for you to be bewildered. We need you to be lighthouses.
Well, look at what you've
You're not going to hear me talk about the crazy world we live in and doom and gloom and all of that. You're not going to hear me do such things, right? Because,
may I interrupt you for a second here?
please, yes.
Look at what you've done at Unity just in 16 months. It's no longer kind of considered a church, so to speak, not church in the traditional sense of church. That's
Right.
where I'm coming from. Think of spiritual centers. Unity Spiritual Center of Santa Barbara. It's a spiritual community. And I think that as these spiritual communities, as Unity goes through its own transformation process, away from the whole idea of church to more of this idea of a community of awakening people.
Yeah.
And I think the whole piece of science and quantum physics, if that can come in, people will have a logical, linear, practical understanding of spirituality that'll just make sense. And it won't be just about faith. I think faith is very important, and that's why we're here. But I think that people can develop faith by understanding that, wait a minute, science tells us everything's energy, vibrating at a frequency that determines its density. That means that I'm energy too. And it's then the bridge is a short bridge from going there to this idea of spirit as energy. Let's look at the word spirit. Let's look at the quantum field and everything that the mystery of the universe. So I think that that's where it's headed. I'm focused on that. I don't think I'll ever see it in my lifetime. 2 decades, I understand, based on, I'm very much into the word work, as you know. I am in the word Paul Selig's work, and they say it'll take 2 decades really before humanity will awaken enough for that 100th monkey to be hit, for that number of critical mass. That's that in a twinkling of an eye, everyone wakes up. It will happen, but I think it's going to take time. And you and I are going through the forest first with the machetes, creating the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if you're aware, because I don't think some people are aware. I'm going to mention this. The brand of church. Well, first of all, as a 501c3, all these communities are churches, right?
That's how they get the status.
Scientology is a church and all that. But that being said, let's see, it was either in 2008 or 9, I believe, where Unity, I was one of the 5 Unity leaders that were brought in a meeting with a branding expert and said, take church out of your name.
When was this?
It was in 2008 or 9.
Oh.
Yeah, Unity headquarters, take church out of your name. You are a church, inward marketing, you're a church, but outward marketing, don't say church, because we are going for the unchurched. The church people are happy, the Catholic, the Presbyterian, the Methodist, they are where they are. But our market is the unchurched, and they don't go to church for a reason. And so that's when they urged all of us to be spiritual communities.
Yeah.
So this isn't something new that, is just happening. I know people think it is, but it's not. It's just that I like to respect what Unity at large has asked of us. So, and I don't like to use the word church. I mean, I am in a church. I'm a minister. Okay. But I just mean, we're so much more than that. It's really a limiting. People don't come to Unity of Santa Barbara to get something, at least in my mind. They come to practice something. There's a lot of wise people there, filmmakers, people like yourself, accomplished people. We come to practice because that's what life is. It's an everyday practice. And so we show films, we have courses, we have people who talk about the afterlife, or we have people talk about managing stress. So it's practical. We are the new educational center emerging on the rise,
Well, I find that, Reverend Kathy talks about dimensions and things that people haven't even thought of before. But I think this is really where humanity is going, to really realize that we're just scratching the scratch of possibility of who we are and what we're up to. One last thing, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi said before he died that it would take 1/10 of 1% of the population to wake up. 1/10 of 1% of 8 billion people is only 80 million people. That
Yeah,
80 million people, that's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. But
that's
what's the
right.
distinction? I think the distinction is that people don't really know that they're divine. They don't know that they're God in form. They don't
Right.
understand, they don't get that. So if you don't know that, then that's the piece I see that's missing, is that moving from believing that we're spirit in the body to knowing that we're spirit in the body.
Mhm.
So 80 million people is not a lot of people.
Not a lot of people.
So so most people who consider themselves in the spiritual community, I think this is my observation, is that they don't do it every day. It's not a practice that they take into their
Right.
lives every single day.
Yep.
And think about a fearful thought and wonder, what am I going to do with this thought? Catch it before it goes down that rabbit hole of fear. So
Exactly.
it's a day-to-day thing. And I find that, we don't bring spirituality into our lives. We bring our lives into spirituality,
Hmm.
understanding who we are. Anyway,
Absolutely.
I
That's
wanted
well
to
said.
share that with you. So we're coming to the end of our time here, and I know you have another appointment. So I wanted to ask you, what would be a pearl of wisdom that you would leave our listeners and our viewers with today?
I guess in my work, one of the main things I see is that, first of all, we're all born leaders. We're leading something, whether it's positive, whether it's dynamic, whether it's negative. And what happens a lot of times when people awaken, when they feel called, when they feel called to be a counselor or a good parent or, whatever measure that it might be, they allow the 24/7 breaking news to bring them down, to lessen them, to give up hope. And so we call forth and we activate the intelligence in all of these people that are awakening and that have such a passion for the world. And we say, don't be dismayed by that, and don't become a martyr. That's not what the world needs. It's like Howard Thurman says, don't be asking what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and be that, because
Right.
that's what the world needs, is to come alive. And if people could just get that and learn how to train themselves to be that, it's like it would be rare, 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 rare. It's like a good friend of mine said, if I ever see you totally giving up hope, I'm going to run down and jump over the bridge. Because I won't. Because I know my job on this planet is to be a lighthouse. I know your job is to be a lighthouse.
Yeah.
And I know many of you that are listening, that's your job. That's what you were sent here to be right now during these times, is to be a lighthouse. But what happens is so many they jump in the rocky boat. Oh, this is happening over here. This is going on over there. And now they're saying COVID may be back. And so they give up the role of being a lighthouse. You can be a lighthouse being grounded, shine your beam, and continue to say, but we're moving forward. Look what Barbara Marx Hubbard said. Look what they're saying. Be a lighthouse. Being a lighthouse isn't being stupid. It's not pretending nothing's going on. It's not being oblivious. It's not being kumbaya. You're aware that things are going on and you're aware they're happening, but you're real clear what your positionality is.
Yeah.
And that to me is the biggest thing. You'll hear these great healers, and they're amazing. And they'll say, oh, I'm just so worn out. I can hardly go on. I've been helping this one. I've been helping that one. I've been helping that. It's like you miss the memo.
Yeah.
You're supposed to give energy to people, not let them be parasital and pull off you. How That's not going to help me and Patricia. Patricia and I, we're going for the 80 million. Let's go.
We're going for the 80 million, sure. Well, gosh, there's so many other questions I wanted to ask you, so we'll have to do a part two
Of
sometime.
course, anytime. Anytime. Yeah, it's been really special to me because I've gotten to know you
Yes,
better.
yes.
And it's touched my heart to know more about you today. So yeah, anytime. These are the conversations that I enjoy the most, really. And there's so much for us to talk about, being an enlightened leader, what that looks like, and there's many paths we can go.
There are definitely many paths, and I would really love to speak to you again about, how we could best deal with the wars and all of the tragedies and the negative stuff that's happening, because people want to pick it and they want to, and they're all about judgment and attack and blame and stuff. That's not the way that we,
Mm.
I think that those of us, we need to lift it all up. And when I say that to people, they say, what? That's a spiritual bypass, Patricia. No, 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 it's not. You
No,
know,
it's not.
when we can look, because everyone is a divine being having a human experience, even the bad guys, they just completely asleep. No, they don't.
Yeah, because people get into this one little label and they lose common sense.
All right. Today, I've been having a wonderful conversation with Reverend Temple Hayes, who is the co-minister at Unity Santa Barbara Community. And we've been having a wonderful conversation about spirituality and the importance of humanity awakening. And I think this is what is happening now. Humanity is going through its awakening process. And it's not about giving spirituality lip service. It's about taking spirituality and the principles of spirituality into our daily lives every day and living them. An example for me is paying attention to when we get triggered by a program that is about fear, taking us down this rabbit hole of not feeling good enough or unworthiness. And it's important for us to understand that we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, that we can make another choice in the moment.
So yeah, we have so much to talk about. I want to thank you again for having me, and
You're welcome. It was delightful, and we'll do it again. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And I want to thank everyone for listening, whether you're driving in your car or cooking in your kitchen or whatever you're doing. And for those that watch us on my website, alignwiththedivine.net, and also on my YouTube channel. So thanks a lot, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining me today on Align with the Divine podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you'd like to learn more about my work, I invite you to my website, alignwiththedivine.net. And on the homepage, I'm giving away a free gift. It's a masterclass I did called The 7 Keys to Successful Manifesting. Pretty much lays out the bones of my work. Also, for a limited time only, between now and the end of August, just for the summer, I'll be giving complimentary tarot sessions, 30-minute sessions valued at $90. So if you're interested, reach out to me using my email, patricia@patriciadiorio.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again for joining me today, and namaste.